fired up. Just do your thing here, bud. Nobody's any better at this than you are.
That's fine. Take a deep breath.
Give them hell at the end. Good luck to you.
Fighting like hell like we do every week. You are the best here.
Brett, be affirmative.
You told me to get on.
Info. Ready. Ready. Go slow. Green, green, green. Lock it down, lock it down.
I'm destroyed, and I just got drove through like 6 times on the 14th. What the f*** is he thinking? That is the stupidest thing I've seen in my career. Literally.
Everything you described is accurate. Haven't even finished the second stage yet. Half the field's wrecked.
Hell yeah!
11 got it. Proud of you there, Matt. Good job, pal. Thanks, man. Good job all day. Great work, my man. Great work.
Keep putting yourself in position, we'll win our share, right? We got one back today, brother. Good job.
10-4, great job, guys.
And welcome back to Racing in the Draft. My name is Mark. Thank you for joining on this, I guess for here, a very rainy, windy night in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Yeah, we're dealing with the remnants of tropical storm, and we've had way too much rain at this point. So fingers crossed that the winds don't blow too hard and the power stays on. So if for some reason I happen to lose power, if it's towards the end, I may not come back. But if it's towards the beginning, I may just wait and come back when the power comes back on, which will be tomorrow. Either way, thanks for joining. Yeah, Racing in the Draft. It is a Draftkings breakdown of the NASCAR race. This week will be at Texas Motor Speedway for the Autotrader EchoPark 400. Thanks for joining in. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. And let's take a quick time trip back a week to Bristol Motor Speedway, where Denny Hamlin gets himself another sword. That's the prize, or the trophy that they get, is a sword for the Great Coliseum, the last Great Coliseum, Bristol Motor Speedway. Denny Hamlin locking his way into the round of 12 along with 11 other drivers. But either way, he got the win. There's been a lot of discussion this week on who had a better first round of the chase. Was it Denny Hamlin or was it Kyle Larson? Well, I'm a Kyle Larson fan, so I think it's going to be Kyle Larson. But I could see the argument for Denny Hamlin too. But both of them have started the playoffs on a huge hot streak. And Tyler Reddick's back there knocking on the door right there with the other win. Either way, let's take a look at Bristol's optimal lineup and other drivers that performed very well, at least in the Draftkings world. And as you can see, I got a couple of them wrong. I got a couple of them right. But for the most part, it was a lackluster evening on my picks. But either way, I've had a couple good weeks prior to this, so it was okay. Hopefully this week, I think this week will be much, much better. But I did not. I knew that there was a possibility of Christopher Bell going out and leading a lot of laps. I just didn't think he was going to lead 187 to 500 laps. I had a feeling that Denny Hamlin might. I knew one of the two potentially would. I just thought Denny Hamlin would get out in front of Christopher Bell early and kind of get the lion's share of the laps led. But Christopher Bell went out, led a bunch of laps at the beginning. Kind of what I thought. That first stage would be very important. And I mean, same thing could happen this week. And I'm not gonna. I don't know. We'll talk about it when we get to there. But we're still looking at last week. But Christopher Bell had a great run and ended up finishing third after he kind of got shuffled towards the back. Worked his way back up and ended up with a good finish. But that first stage and first half of the second stage were very, very good for Christopher Bell. Denny Hamlin, also leading 142 laps, had a really, really good race and finishing first. Make sure everything's okay. Ty Gibbs, I'm telling you, this kid is got the potential. I still have just a gut feeling that he could still end up winning a race this year, even though we're starting to get down to, 7 races left. Can Ty Gibbs get his first win this year? Maybe. And it's not even that I'm really a Ty Gibbs fan. I just think I kind of made this prediction many, many months ago, and I'm going to still just ride the horse all the way to the end and see if it ends up happening. But either way, Ty Gibbs with a solid 5th place day. Good for him. Other guys, Todd Gillen, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and how about Carson Hocevar? Carson Hocevar at back-to-back, in my opinion, 2 of the more difficult tracks that NASCAR goes to, and finishing in the top 20 in both of them. In fact, Carson Hocevar has just actually been rock solid ever since getting behind the wheel of that 42 car. And once again, we get to see if he's actually got what it takes this weekend at Texas, because he'll be in the 42 car again this week. He has definitely earned that ride. Now the question is, can he do enough to take the 77 ride away from Ty Dillon? Well, if stats are anything, Carson Hocevar is a much better fit for that 77. And, oh yeah, silly season's been absolutely silly crazy. Even though I don't really go through the breakdowns, maybe I should. Maybe like on Wednesday or Thursday, so I should kind of do a race preview and NASCAR news stuff, because I do find all that stuff also very fascinating. Hit me up in the chat. Let me know if you think I should also do a Thursday pre-race type show and kind of an update on any NASCAR news. But either way, Carson Hocevar lighting it on fire and really making the most out of the opportunity that's been given to him. So good on Carson. Kyle Larson had a really, really solid day, even though he had a poor qualifying effort, started at the rear of the field, came back to lead 64 laps and finished in 2nd. Chris Buescher, solid day, finishing in 4th. Michael McDowell running pretty much in the top 5, top 10 all day long. Chase Elliott, even though he as a driver not in the playoff chase, but the 9 car is, and that's really where the money comes from, is from that prize pool. It gets paid to the owner of the car. So that 9 car is still in the hunt. A lot of people online, I don't know if they're just trolling or what, but they always make comments. Why is Chase Elliott got a P next to his name? He's not in the playoffs. Well, he's not. His car is, though, and that's where the money comes from. So expect Chase Elliott to continue to run very, very hard and not kind of use this as a warm-up to the start of next season. But either way, our optimal lineup challenge, William Byron still sitting at the top with 10. But boy, do we have a lot of guys knocking on the door, trying to get there and take that top spot away from William Byron, Martin Truex Jr., Chris Buescher, Kyle Larson, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., all only 2 shots away. Could this be the week that one of them closes within 1, or maybe even more? But, other guys to kind of look at. Michael McDowell's got 7 this year. Justin Haley was 7. Todd Gillen was 6. So those are guys, that's kind of reason I kind of put this out here, is to kind of give you an idea of some of these guys that may not finish well week to week. A lot of times we'll have really good Draftkings days, so that typically means they had a lot of place differential and they're able to keep their car clean, be there at the end, and gain positions on the track. So that's the reason why I kind of like to look at this optimal lineup challenge. And, oh yeah, by the way, I had to expand it by another row. So with Carson Hocevar joining this group. Either way, that is a look at last week, but that's last week. We can't do anything with that except for put it in the stats column and remember for next year and the years following for Bristol. But either way, we are headed to a scorching hot, and I don't have the full stats on it. This potentially could end up being the hottest NASCAR race, at least of the modern era, where they were taking full temperature readings on the inside of the car, track temperatures, and ambient air temperature. They have a forecast for the ambient air temperature at Texas this weekend, or for tomorrow, to be 100 to 101 degrees, The feel like temperature is going to be 104 to 106. Track temperature is going to be well above 130, close to 140 degrees. If that's any indication of what we saw in the Xfinity race today, we saw temperatures inside the Xfinity car almost get to 140 degrees. We could see close to 145, 150 degrees inside this Cup car because the air circulation inside the Cup car is a little bit less than what they find in the Xfinity car. So I'm kind of glad they shortened this thing to 400 miles instead of 500. It's going to be hot. Either way, this is a intermediate cookie cutter style tri-oval, but it's anything but your typical cookie cutter because it's 20 degrees bankings in turns 1 and 2 and 24 degrees bankings in 3 and 4, where most of our cookie cutters have the same banking in both turns, which kind of lends the thing to be really tough to set up, from tire pressures to how they set the car up. We can go into a lot of detail about how they set these cars up, but I'm really not a crew chief, but I understand camber and air pressures and weight balances and those types of things. And you can set up for one half of the track, but that may not make you very fast in the other end. So trying to find the balance between the two is really the key. It's a lot like Darlington. Darlington is very, very different in turns 1 and 2 as it is to 3 and 4. So, not that I'm saying Darlington is a race to look at, but guys that can have balanced cars and race well in two different types of cornering typically may end up leading well to having good finishes here. Either way, thanks for joining in. I see you got a couple people already joined in. Make sure you hit that like button. And if you got any comments, who do you like this weekend? Who's your favorite driver? Who do you think may come from the rear? Who do you think may not stay up front? I have a few ideas. We'll get to them when we get to the drivers. But either way, this race length has been shortened from, I think it was 334 down to 267, or 100 miles shorter. Dominator points are going to be, important, but not like it was last week where we had 500 laps. I mean, we had almost double the amount of laps. So dominator points will still matter, but they are not going to be the end-all, end-all. It's going to be a lot of finishing positions, and it's going to be a lot of place differential. So we have 186.9 dominator points coming from 66.75 laps led. So that's 0.25 points per lap led. And then fast laps, which typically get spread out a little bit amongst the field. Usually your front runners are the guys that end up with the most fast laps. So kind of whoever's leading the race kind of gets both of them. But it's 120.15, giving you the 186.9 total dominator points. All right, enough with that. Let's look at our track comparisons. We look at Kansas, Las Vegas, and Charlotte. They are the typical cookie cutter style type track that's very, very similar to what Texas is. Charlotte more so than Kansas and Las Vegas, just because of the tri-oval difference. And then you've got Miami, which is still 1.5 miles, but there is no D-shaped tri-oval that kind of runs through the front stretch. It's just a one long straightaway. Either way, the reason we do this video is to break each driver down now that we are talking about the track and the heat and all the things. Yeah, if it's not rain, it's hot weather. I mean, heck, at California this year, it was snow. So who would have expected? Either way, I'm going to break down more in detail what this box is and all of the things in this box, and then we'll kind of summarize as we go on. So Kyle Larson is the driver of the number 5 HendrickCars.com. He is priced at $11,200 this week on Draftkings, which is about normal for his pricing. He is the most expensive driver. And then on this next line here, he is starting in the 11th. So he qualified 11th. He missed the final 10 spots for the final shootout for qualifying. But when we look at his practice speeds, he was 5th in single lap. So his fastest lap out of 25 laps, he was 5th fastest of the field. Then if they stay out and run 10 consecutive laps. Now, Kyle Larson actually ran, I think all 25 of these laps were consecutive laps, but the fastest 10 lap consecutive average, he was first out of the 17 total drivers who ended up with a 10 lap consecutive run. And then if we look on this next line here to the far left, where it says 1 win, this is 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s, and 4 top 20s. This is in comparison to the tracks that are listed up here. Because Texas has been only running realistically 1 race per year. Now, they had the All-Star race in 2022 and in 2021, but the configuration or layout of those races are significantly different than what they run a full NASCAR race. Number one, it's only like 100 laps. They do a bunch of inversions and they do some silly stuff with it, and the field's about half the size. So with all that being said, I don't bring in the all-star races to when I'm looking at full race lengths. But I also look, so for this week, because I didn't want to go all the way back to 2020. I mean, we all know what 2020 brought us. And even a little bit of 2021 was, I mean, no practice, no qualifying, show up, get in your car, and race. So, and it was in the last generation of cars. This is a new generation of car, which is completely different from front to back, top to bottom. It's just a different car. So I'm only looking at the last 2 years of full Texas races. Now, also remember, these were 500-mile races compared to what we're looking at 400 miles. So I brought in the sister tracks. I brought in Kansas, which we just ran 2 weeks ago. Charlotte, and it's not fall of 2023. This was the Coke 600, which is actually even longer. So it's not a great comparison, but it is a comparison. And then our Las Vegas spring race, which was actually a 400 mile, or the 267 lap. Kansas was 267 also. So from Charlotte from earlier this year, and the 2 Kansas and Vegas races, and then of course the Texas races. But if we are looking at that, Kyle Larson has 1 win, 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 4 top 20s, a 73.8 Draftkings average. So I also looked at the top 15 points getters, DraftKings points getters, over the last 5 races for all of these tracks, and the lowest of the 15 was on average about 34 points. So saying that Kyle Larson has a 73.8 DraftKings average is pretty darn good. And he's got a 9.2 average finish for those 5 races. So yeah, Kyle Larson is definitely very, very fast at this style track. It's cookie cutter, decent banking, a lot of tire wear. A lot of times now with Texas, you can't rip the fence like you can at the other tracks, but Kyle Larson seems to be pretty good ripping the bottom or the top or the middle or kind of wherever. I mean, it's Kyle Larson. Kind of like Denny Hamlin. He's just fast. Kyle Larson finished 9th in this race last year, so the 2022 race, which fell on the same weekend, he finished 9th. And if we look at the total track history for Texas, now this also includes the All-Star races. He's got 2 wins, 5 top 10s, or 5 top 5s, 7 top 10s, 10 top 20s, and a 17.2 average finish. And then over here to the top left is what I have him as a ranking system. So I take pretty much what they've done the last 5 races at Texas, the 10 races at comparable tracks, the last 10 races that they've run this year. So that's kind of the trend line that I'm looking at. I look at practice, I look at qualifying. I take all of that, put it in a bunch of different spreadsheets, and it spits out what after qualifying, how much place differential potential there is, and it kind of gives me a point total. And Kyle Larson has the highest point total. So when I made my lineups, I have Kyle Larson in 35 to 40% of my lineups, and for comparison reasons, I run 40 different lineups. So 35 to 40%. You guys are smart. Figure out how much am I running of Kyle Larson, and that kind of gives you an idea of what I'm running. Now, I always use the disclaimer that once I finish all these videos, we get to tomorrow, if all of a sudden somebody has to make a repair to their car or they found something wrong and they have to drop to the rear, I may or may not make adjustments. So that's why I kind of give a small window here, and probably it's going to fall within inside this window unless something really weird happening. Collar should come down with the flu tomorrow and not start the race. Yeah, I would make huge adjustments. Time to win some bags. Lost Profit, thanks for joining. Yes, time to win some bags. I need a good weekend, get me through the rest of this year and into the start of next year or football season. So yeah, I'd like to win a bag. Heck, I'll take a half a bag right now. I'm tired of treading water and breaking even. But once again, with the tournaments that I play, treading water and breaking even probably is a win in a lot of books. So either way, yes, let's win some money for everybody. Denny Hamlin next in line here at $11,000. Now you got to remember, you can only spend $50,000 with 6 drivers. So as much as I would love to run the top 5 on this front page, yeah, you can't do it. You run out of salary cap. So Denny Hamlin, $11,000. He is starting 11th. Practice, he was pretty good. 8th in single lap, 2nd in 10 lap consecutive average. So looks like Denny and Kyle have both picked up kind of right where they left off. They both also finished 9th, 10th. Seems to be a pattern with these two guys. They kind of follow each other around lately. And they're not the best of friends. Now, actually, off track, they actually are pretty good friends. They play golf and pickleball quite a bit with each other. If you listen to Denny Hamlin's podcast, he talks about that. Denny Hamlin has got 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, 4 top 20s in the 5 race comparison that we're looking at. A 33.6 Draftkings average. That kind of tells you how big of a Draftkings average Kyle Larson actually has at this style track. And a 13.8 average finish. At Texas, Denny does have 3 wins, 8 top 5, 16 top 10s, 27 of 34 top 20s, a 13.4 average finish. I just think Denny has a little bit higher of a ceiling, even though I know he's starting 1 spot further up. Just a gut feeling, and Kyle Larson's my guy. I just think this is Denny's year. Not that I don't think Kyle Larson will finish potentially second right behind Denny. I just think Denny's the better pick this week, and that's just a gut feeling. He still came in second on my algorithmic report. I've got him in 40 to 45% of my lineups. So a lot of my lineups have either Kyle Larson or Denny Hamlin or a combination of both. Next in line, in Lost Profit, who do you think wins this race straight up? I honestly think this could potentially be a Ryan Blaney weekend. If Kyle Larson or Denny Hamlin don't, I think it could also be William Byron or Ryan Blaney. I think those 4 are my true picks, and I think this actually may be a Ryan Blaney potential. He ran really, really well at Charlotte. So William Byron next in line here at 10,800, starting 18th. Decent amount of place differential here, a little bit more so than the previous 2. He was 7th in single lap qualifying, and he did not do a 10 lap consecutive average, so we don't really know what his long run speed is, but he's, at least on single lap, he's kind of right there, and he kind of missed a little bit on qualifying. William Byron does have 1 win out of the 5 races. I think that was actually at the Vegas race earlier this year. He got that win. 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 5 top 20s. Actually a little bit better than Kyle Larson. A 70.7 Draftkings average, not quite as good as Kyle Larson. but a 5.4 average finish over those 5 races. Woo-wee! That's pretty solid. He finished 7th in this race last year. And if we look at the 10 races here at Texas, not quite. I mean, his average finish is better than the other 3. But he's got 1 top 5, 5 top 10s, and 9 top 20s. All right, next in line here, Martin Truex Jr., who, I mean, literally got it out of Bristol, moving on to the next round by 3 points, 4 points, something like that. Pretty crazy. And because we enter the race of 12, he goes back to the top. Well, I think actually William Byron's at the top, but Martin Truex Jr., I think, is either tied or like 1 point away from him. But, I mean, everybody was always saying, well, you know, the guy who wins the regular season championship should have an advantage. Well, Martin Truex just got a huge advantage. He gets to go back to the top of the point standings. Pretty crazy. Interesting how they do that, though. 10,500. Martin Truex Jr. is starting 16th. He was 17th in single lap, did 20 laps, and he was 6th in a 10-lap consecutive run. So not quite as fast as what we saw up here, and he qualified a little bit worse, but there's a little bit more place differential here. Paul Moss. Evening, Mark. I've been lucky. The last 2 weeks, I'm monkeyed by this lineup. I'm waiting to hear your opinions. These lineups are a little bit tough. I mean, once again, it's kind of like when we were at Darlington. I think I talked about this. Lineups were a little bit tough to make. The nice thing is this time around, I think we've got some viable options on the cheap side. Now, they're cheap for a reason. They can bite you in the backside real quick. But I think we have some actual... We don't have a whole lot in the middle that I really, really like. It's either I like a bunch of guys at the top, and I don't mind pairing them with some of the guys at the bottom. There's more at the bottom this week that allows you to take some of the top sided guys. Kind of once we get into the middle, the 8,200 down to about 6,500 range, there's not a whole lot in there that I really, really, really think is great. There are a couple guys in there that I think could do okay. I think you kind of mix and match those in and out. But I think we've got some real viable options for, at least for DraftKings points. I don't think any of those guys are going to go out and set the world on fire. They could get lucky and potentially get a top 10. But I think it gives the availability to run at least 2 and potentially even a third option out of these guys on the first and second sheet. So, yeah, Martin Truex Jr., he hasn't been setting the world on fire by any means in the playoffs. Seems to be a little distracted. I don't know if that is because his ex-girlfriend, I keep saying partner, it just sounds weird when they do that. His ex-girlfriend passed away this past week. She was a huge advocate for breast cancer awareness and did a ton with a lot of the other NASCAR wives and NASCAR drivers and fundraisers and all sorts of stuff. And she lost her life, and rest in peace, Sherry. I'm sure her legacy will be carried on for many, many, many years to follow. But I don't know if that I know that Martin and her did not, I think they left on okay terms, but I don't think it was ugly, and I don't think it was good either. But, Martin spent a long time with her, and she ended up passing away shortly after the Bristol race this past weekend. So I don't know if that potentially had a little bit to do with the mental thought process of Martin going into the races. And, I don't know if that will continue to affect him potentially this weekend or the next, or is his mind kind of cleared out and he's going to go, win a couple races for her and her memory. It's hard to say. And none of that have been even a factor. But Martin Truex Jr. definitely the last few weeks has been not quite where he was during the regular season. So I'm speculating. All of it could be just a figment of my imagination, but Martin just didn't seem to be as strong as he had been. And that could just be the 19 car just was a little bit off. It's always a possibility. But Martin Truex Jr., Starting 16th, he was 17th in single lap, 6th in 10 lap consecutive average. He finished 31st in this race last year. Not great. If we look at his 35 total starts here, he's only got 5 top 10s, 17 top 10s, 27 top 20s, and a 14.5 average finish. I mean, not bad, not shabby. Starting 16th, there's a place differential here. Because he has not been as strong as he was earlier in the year, I'm fading off of Martin Truex Jr. a little bit, but I'm still 15 to 20%. That's still a pretty heavy ownership. But the only thing I like is probably him starting 16th, and he's in the chase, so he could potentially have a pretty good day. Something about it, I don't love the Truex play this week. So, Tyler Reddick, 10,200, starting 15th. He was 21st in single lap practice, which is a little slow considering his record here at Texas. 13th and 10 lap consecutive average. That was a little bit off, especially since the Toyota seemed to be pretty quick during practice and qualifying. So I don't know if the 45 team just missed a little bit or if something's going on. But either way, I mean, he won this race last year. He won the race at Kansas 2 weeks ago. This mile-and-a-half cookie cutter style track is right up Tyler Reddick's alley. I mean, if it's not Kyle Larson or Denny Hamlin, I'm picking Truex, or I'm picking Reddick. They are just that good. And then, I mean, pretty much William Byron fourth behind that. So, yeah, I mean, he's got a 6.2 average finish, which is right there next to William Byron for average finishes. 61.7 Draftkings average of the 5 races that we're looking at. 2 wins, 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 5 top 20s. I mean, pretty much a mirror image of what William Byron's been doing. So, any combination of anybody in this first page would be potentially a very good play. Now, who do you put him with? Let's keep going. Let's find out. All right. Our next grouping here, Christopher Bell at 9,900, did not get the pole this week. He'd had a 3-week run at getting the pole every weekend so far. Oh, not this weekend. He's going to start 9th. 23rd in single lap practice, only did 14 laps of practice. He did end up spinning, and I think that's when they said, okay, let's just shut it down. Let's get this car set up and ready for qualifying. Did not seem to injure that car at all. I mean, he still went out and qualified 9th, which is the best so far we've seen. So I think the car's fine. I think everything's fine. Don't expect any changes or anything. We may wake up tomorrow and they'll be like, hey, we decided to change whatever. We found that when he spun the car, it damaged it a little bit. I don't know. But starting 9th, good qualifying, decent qualifying. His average finishes for the 5 tracks we're looking at 14.8, 31.3 Draftkings average, 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s. At Texas, he's raced there 6 total times in the Cup car with 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 4 top 20s, a 13.7 average finish. I mean, not bad. He finished 34th in the race last year. Okay, that happens. They had real tire issues with this track and this car and this setup last year. They brought a different right side tire that most the drivers that tested it said it's a much better design and should hold up fairly well. Now, I don't think anybody tested it for 140 to 145 degree track temperatures. That's going to throw things for a loop. I don't care what setup you got. They didn't even practice in that type of heat earlier today. So yeah, it's gonna that heat, and they're also calling for 25, potentially gust up to 30 miles an hour wind. That pushes a car around. I mean, I know that I'm driving at 65, 70 miles an hour on the interstate, and you get hit by a 25 mile an hour gust. It pushes and pulls your car around. So the wrong gust at the wrong time at 190 miles an hour going into a corner, yeah, sounds a little scary to me. But I mean, these cars are pretty safe, so I'm not worried about their safety. You just don't want to tear up a race car, especially potentially one that could win. Kyle Busch next in line here at 9,600, starting 7th, 3rd in single lap. Good practice speeds. 24 total laps of practice, and he missed 5th and 10 lap consecutive average. Pretty solid. He's got a 14.2 average finish over the last 5 races we're comparing to. No top 5s, no wins. 3 top 10s, though. Not bad. Okay. 4 top 20s, 31.2 Draftkings average. Now, at Texas as a whole, he's got 34 total starts with 4 wins. 14 top 5s, 19 top 10s, and 28 out of 34 top 20s. 11.9 average finish. Pretty good here at Texas, and he practiced pretty well, and he qualified pretty well. The A car won here last year. I probably should have more ownership in Kyle Busch than I have. I mean, at this point, this is the highest qualifier we have. And place differential is going to play a role in this. So, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. This number may move. If it moves upwards. And maybe a Christopher Bell moves downwards. Maybe I flip-flop these in a few spots. But I'm probably a little lower than I should be on Kyle Busch. I should probably have a little bit more ownership, but there's just not as much place differential. Even though I think he finishes where he starts, which is good, or potentially even better. But then when you look at a Ryan Blaney, who I've already said I think it might be one of my picks to win this race at $9,400. Now, his practice speeds were okay. His qualifying was not good at all at 23rd. And the Penske's have been a little bit off this year, especially lately. But out of the 5 tracks, he's got a 7.2 average finish, 60.0 Draftkings average. He's got a win at the Coke 600 earlier this year. 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 5 top 20s. I mean, pretty solid, pretty decent. I mean, like I said, I like Ryan Blaney. I like the place differential potential here. And I like the potential that I think he could easily win this race. He's one of 5 that I think are really a viable pick to win this week. He's won here before at Texas. I think that may have been an all-star win, if I remember correctly. I think it was the all-star win when he actually didn't win and then won. They called the caution as he was going across the start-finish line, and he unbuckled the safety net, and then he had to hold it up on the final lap. I remember something about that. But either way, 16.4 average finish here at Texas. He's got that 1 win, 6 top 5s out of 14. I mean, almost half the time he's finishing in the top 5. So pretty solid, pretty consistent for Ryan Blaney. Yeah, I mean, I think this is a good ownership spot to be with him, and I could even see it going a little higher. Chase Elliott, 9,200. And yes, the 9 car is in the owner's playoff. Chase Elliott is not in the driver's playoff. I know that you guys know because I've talked about this before, but anybody else that happens to pick up on this video, Chase Elliott is in not Chase Elliott. The 9 car is in the playoffs. It could win the championship still. They've been running really consistent. And these next few tracks are really good for the 9 team. Maybe not Talladega as much, but they're good on 1.5 miles. They're good at road courses. That's 2 of the 3. All they got to do is win one of them, and they're on to the round of 8. I don't know if I love the call for Chase Elliott this week as a win, but I will take a starting 29th and being in the playoffs, and the 9 car being in the playoffs as somebody who I think can get up and finish fairly well, even though we look at the stats and they're not great. 9.8 average finish, 17.8 Draftkings average, and only 2 top 10s. And if we look at his total stats here, 14 total races here. Now, 11 out of 14, that's pretty good. One of them not being last year's race. And starting 29th with a 13.7 average finish. Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of place differential here for... I know Chase Elliott's been off, but the 9 car has been pretty consistent this year. Not winning consistent, but top 15, top 10 consistent, absolutely. And starting 29th, go out and give me a 12th, Chase. That's all I kind of need. That'll be enough place differential and finishing position to put you at least probably in the top 10, if not potentially a little higher. Either way, Next in line here, Brad Keselowski, 8,900, 15th in practice out of 15 laps, did not do a 10-lap consecutive average, is starting third. Okay. I think it's a little higher than I want. There's not a whole lot of there's not much place differential here. In fact, there's more negative place differential potential here than there is help. He does not have a win at this track. He's got an 11.4 average finish over the 5 track comparisons with 5 top 20s. But you're starting third. I think there's more downside than upside here. The problem is I don't have any lineups that I have enough swing to move Brad to Kyle. So I think that's why Brad ends up getting a little bit more ownership than I probably want Brad to have. But I think Brad and this RFK team, he's hungry for a win right now. And he's been really, really close a lot this year. Can this be the year? Can this be the race? Maybe. Starting up front definitely kind of helps. Chris Buescher, his teammate, and the other car that Brad K or RFK Racing owns, the 17 with Chris Buescher, 8,800, starting second. Really good qualifying for the RFK team, the best Ford team out there running right now. 11th in single lap practice to 24 total laps of practice, 5th in 10 lap consecutive average. All right, speeds are really good at practice and qualifying. But if we look at the 5 comparison tracks, you've only got 1 top 10, which equated to 1 top 20. A 21.4 average finish with a 14.9. Remember, Kyle Larson was at 72 Draftkings average. And if we look at Chris Buescher's work total at Texas, it's not great. 14 total starts with 1 top 10, 5 top 20s. 22.4 average finish. Now he's been running better than he has ever in his career this year. So you can definitely give a bump to these stats. But is it enough to be starting second? I mean, that there is 0 to little place differential potential. Now, when I looked at the full breakdown over the last 5 races, full races at Texas, and I also looked at Vegas and Kansas, because they're similar style tracks. The optimal lineup had either the person that started first, second, or third in the optimal lineup for all of the races that I was looking at. So as much as I just, for the longest time, I always had this premonition of you don't take front row starting guys. That's starting to change more and more. And I'm not saying this is the week I love it. I don't mind the Chris Buescher play as much as the pole sitter. It's not because I think the pole sitter can't go win a race at 1.5 miles because he did last year. I think starting from the pole is a different ball game. So, I don't know if I was watching the Ohio State Notre Dame game. I just looked up. There's 7 seconds left, and Ohio State's at like that 3-yard line with 7 seconds left. Okay, that might get interesting here in a second. I don't really care who wins. Really, I don't like either team. I just happened to have it on, looked up. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Sorry. Back to NASCAR. So the Chris Buescher play. Definitely don't love it. I don't hate it, though. And I guess that's probably why I kind of fell in the 15 to 20% range on ownership for Chris Buescher. I think I actually probably think that's a little on the high side from where I want to be with it. Where Bubba Wallace, our pole sitter. And I tell you what, Bubba Wallace has started the playoffs like a different person. And happy to see Bubba running really, really well. Starting from the pole, though, I don't know if I like it for the DraftKings side of things. 14th in practice out of 22 total laps. Not awful, not great. If we look at the body work at the 5 tracks, Bubba Wallace runs fairly well at this style track. 19.4 average finish. Actually, that's not fine. That's actually kind of bad. We could say the same thing about Chris Buescher, though. Starting second. 3 seconds left. Okay, sorry, I got lost. I should really turn the TV off before I start this thing. Bubba Wallace, 2 top 5, 2 top 10s, 2 top 20s out of 5 races. Here at Texas, he has no top 5s, 1 top 10, 3 top 20s, a 22.8 average finish. He finished 25th in this race last year. I mean, to be honest, I don't like either front row starter. I don't really even like the Brad Keselowski play starting in third. Ohio State scored. Hopefully I didn't ruin anybody's viewing habits. Ross Chastain. So Bubba Wallace, I'm not taking much ownership in him. That could easily come back to burn me, and I know and understand that. Bubba Wallace is not as good at mile and a halves as Tyler Reddick, William Byron, Al Larson, a whole host of other ones. Bubba Wallace won in Kansas last year. He has that capability. Starting from the pole, though, is a whole nother mental game. And it doesn't happen with Bubba Wallace often. So, I mean, that could easily come back to burn me, and I completely understand it. But I just don't like the play this week. So I'm not playing much of him. I'm not sure would argue with anybody else on getting rid of him, other than I think it's a bad place differential. Yeah, that's a touchdown. So that's enough on the Bubba Wallace thing. I don't like the place differential game with Bubba Wallace, and he's not Kyle Larson from 2021. That's pretty self-explanatory. Ross Chastain, next in line, $8,500 starting 5th. Wow, Ross, you found some speed finally. 10th in practice, 3rd in 10-lap consecutive average. But where have you been all year? And pretty much all of it. Only 3 top 20s at the 5 races we're comparing to. 17.6 average finish. Finished 13th in this race last year. 8 total starts at Texas with only 3 top 20s, no top 10s. Yeah, he's been running in the playoffs a little bit better, but once again, I think he's starting too far up. Now, I know one of these guys is going to have a great finish. Which one? If I had to pick between Bubba Wallace, Ross Chastain, Chris Buescher, and Keselowski, I'm going to take Brad. Behind Brad, I'm going to take Chris Buescher. Behind that, I'm going to take Ross Chastain. And behind that, I'll take Bubba Wallace. So I think that's kind of how my lineups and ownerships ended up falling. Then you get somebody who's $200 cheaper in Kevin Harvick starting 22nd. But Kevin Harvick has been about awful. 33rd in practice. That's awful. 15th out of 17 in 10-lap consecutive average. That's awful. For somebody who has 3 wins at this track, yes, I understand it's 39 total starts at this track. But what? Has Kevin Harvick retired already and just not told anybody else, and he's letting Keelan drive this car? Because we're talking night and day difference between what Kevin was and what Kevin is right now. Finished 19th in this race last year, 11th place average finish over the 5 races that we're comparing to. 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, 5 top 20s. The only thing going right now is Kevin's experience. He's got probably one of the best crew chiefs in the garage. and he's starting 22nd, so there's some place differential opportunities. There's not that much downfall for taking Kevin Harvick. But I don't know if Kevin hunts for much better than 10th. So I've kind of got about the same ownership, 15 to 20%. Don't love the play, don't hate the play. I'd like the place differential play out of all of it, but that's about it, really. And I think he'll get a fair amount of ownership because of it, because it's Kevin Harvick, the name, and he's starting 22nd. But Kevin's not been starting very good at a lot of races, and he hasn't been finishing well, so he's not been making optimal lineups. Joey Logano, next in line, just missed the playoffs. Our champion from last year did not make it past the round of 16 into the round of 12. Yeah, because Ford, SHR, and Penske, other than Ryan Blaney, and Ryan Blaney hasn't been that good either, have not been good. Joey Logano starting 20th. Now his practice speed was good. He was second in single lap. Did 17 laps of practice. Don't have a 10-lap consecutive average because I didn't even do that. The 5 comparison tracks, he's got an 18.8 average finish. Only 2 top 5s, which equated to 2 top 10, 2 top 20s. He's won once here in Texas before. Okay, good. This is pretty consistent. I mean, almost 50% of the time he's finishing top 5. But I also have to look at what the current trend is with Joey Logano, and it's just there's not speed there. So I kind of put all these guys kind of in the same bucket. Yeah, there's place differential with Kevin Harvick and Joey Logano, but I think they could finish about the same as Ross Chastain, which is 10 to 15th, maybe 10 to 18th. So I think there's some room to move up for Kevin and Joey, but also I think there's a lot of potential for Ross to fall down. Don't like I said, I don't love a whole lot of the plays in this area, so it makes. And when I built my lineups, not saying you got to build your lineups like mine. That's a great thing about this is I just tell you what I've been doing, and I give you a kind of a percentage. It gave the opportunity to run 2 to 3 of the high-end guys and 3 or so of the low-end guys. And then I mixed and matched a few of these guys. I didn't put Ty Gibbs in. I think I put him in one of my lineups. Because I still think Ty Gibbs could win a race this year. Still on that bandwagon. $7,900. 22nd in single lap practice. 8th in 10-lap consecutive average. He finished 20th in this race last year. He's got 4 starts at the 5 comparison tracks. He did not run the 2021 race here. He's got 2 top 20s, but he's starting 4th. So as far as Draftkings goes, I'm not willing to roll the dice on it. I would barely even be able to go and put $10 on it for a win. There's too much place differential here for Ty Gibbs. Cool paint job though. So yeah, I think they could be fast. I think he could possibly get a top 10, top 15 if he keeps his car clean and stays out of trouble. But I'm not willing to roll the dice on a 4th place starting spot. Alex Bowman, 7,700. I mean, once again, it's what have you done for me lately? And Alex Bowman hasn't done anything for anybody lately, including himself. So starting 14th, yeah, there's place differential when you're driving a Hendrick car, which should have a ton of speed. He just can't finish out races. And his practice speed was 20th. He finished 29th in this race last year. At the 5 comparison tracks, he's got a 17.4 average finish. 25.8 average finish for 13 total starts here at this track. There's nothing here in the stats that make me go, ooh, yeah, I need to take some Alex Bowman. There's not. So, I mean, like I said, once again, this $6,000 to $8,000 range, there's not a whole lot that I love in here. I mean, Daniel Suarez, 7,500. Now, Daniel Suarez has got a pretty good average finish for Texas in this style track. But starting 8th is too far up. I needed him to start 20th. He was 25th in practice. He finished 12th in this race last year. He's got a 14.2 average finish at the cookie cutter comparison tracks we're looking at. No top 5s, but 2 top 10s, 4 top 20s. Here at Texas, he's got a 16.1 average finish. I mean, that's not awful. It's one of his better tracks, actually. He's finished 3 times in the top 5. But you're starting 8th. He's too far. He's starting too far forward for me to roll the dice and take a chance with Daniel Suarez. And it's the same thing with Eric Jones. Eric Jones has almost the average finish at the 5 tracks, but if we look at Eric Jones's body of work at Texas Motor Speedway, he's got 11.5 average finish out of 12 starts. 3 top 5s, 7 top 10s, 10 top 20s. I mean, only twice he's finished outside the top 20. But, I mean, once again, Eric Jones is starting 12th. There's not a whole lot of place differential. Now, I have probably a little more confidence that I think Eric Jones finishes better than anybody on this page. Unless Ty Gibbs happens to pull a lucky one out of his rabbit hat. But I'm not going to go bet on that. I don't bet on hopes and small possibilities, because that's a very small possibility. Not saying it's not doable, but it's a very small possibility. Eric Jones is solid here, and Eric Jones has been running really well. And Eric Jones has done this almost every year, where he ran well at Darlington and won. He backed it up with a good run at Bristol. Then he ran well here at Texas. And if I remember correctly, the wheels fell off. Not really, but things fell apart for him when we got to the Roval and Dega and those types of things. And then it was like, oh, Eric Jones, who's that guy? Yeah, so Eric Jones, this is a normal stint where Eric Jones runs well. These are just tracks that are right up his alley. So I have a little bit more ownership, but he's one of the few between 6,500 and 81 or 8,200 that I even remotely like. Eric Almirola sucks at mile and a half tracks. He just is not good. He's starting 21st. Sure, there's place differential, but he was 4th in practice, which was really strange because everything else, he's got a 20th place average finish, 17.3 average finish here at Texas, only 1 top 5. If we look at the 5 comparison cookie cutter style tracks, no top 5s, no top 10s. I mean, the only thing I could say was he just hit the right thing. Maybe he had a lot of wind to his back during that one practice lap. I don't know. I don't like the play. There's nothing in the stat sheet other than he had 1 lap that was fast. Well, that's an anomaly. That's not a trend. So, yeah, I don't have much ownership in Eric Almirola. So once again, there's nobody in this range that I really want to run. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Same thing, 6,900. Now, Ricky's been running better this year, and I completely understand it. I get your thought processes on it. Starting 24th. He was 16th in practice. Okay. Place differential, good. Practice, not bad. Then we look at his body of work. The 5 cookie cutter style tracks that we're looking at. 1 top 10, 1 top 20. So the other 4 races were not good. 23rd place average finish. Not great. Not when you're starting 24th. I need that to be a 13th place average finish. He finished 27th in this race last year. Well, okay, things aren't getting any better. 19 total starts here at Texas. Half the time he finishes in the top 20. The other half of the time he does not. And he doesn't ever finish inside the top 10. With a 22.2 average finish. Even if you improve 4 points and we're finishing 18, if he finished 18th, I'm not sure that's enough for me to say that you're even going to make the top 15 in points. So, not a whole lot of interest here with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Austin Dillon, 6,800. Starting 13th. You didn't do a 10-lap consecutive average. You were 26th fastest in practice. Out of the last 5 cookie cutter track style tracks that we're looking at, 1 top 10, 3 top 20s, no top 5s, 20th place average finish. Finished 17th in the race last year. You're starting 17th. At Texas, you've got an 18.6 average finish with only one top 5. It's when you got to win. 2 top 10s out of 19 total starts. There's nothing there for me to think that Austin Dillon's going to finish any better than 13th. And I at least have to think that you have the potential to finish better than 13th for me to think about taking him. There isn't there. There isn't. It's not there. Once again, we're still inside this bubble that I say I'm not interested. Once again, AJ Allmendinger, 6,600. I'm a big AJ fan. Not on mile and a halves. Not when you show me stats of you've got 21 total starts at Texas, 3 top 10s out of 21 total starts, 13 top 20s. Okay, that's a little bit better, but you're starting 6. I don't see AJ Allmendinger going out and winning this thing. I don't see him going out and being a dominator. I see that there's much more of a downside to this play than there is an upside. He's got a 20.7 average finish at the other 3 cookie cutter tracks this year. He's starting 6. That doesn't work. And he's never raced this car at Texas. And this car races so much different, and this track is different than the other ones. The only reason that I compare them is because they're similar. Yeah, so starting 6, I mean, this could come back to bite me. AJ could be this could be something. I think it's more an anomaly than it is something of that I really like to see. Especially when you've never finished inside the top 5 and only 3 times in the top 10. And you haven't done anything at any of these other tracks. So why would I think that it's going to be something different now? Carson Hocevar. So this is one of the first people we get to that I go, okay, maybe. That's a big maybe. Because Carson Hocevar's body of work to this point's 4 races, that's not enough for me to go, oh, I mean, he's trending in the right direction. And I'm super happy to see Carson doing really, really well in this 42 car. Number one, it shows the 42 cars actually got speed. The problem is I like Noah Gragson, and it shows that Noah Gragson wasn't ready for Cup yet. But damn, I would have never thought Carson Hocevar would have been ready for Cup, and he's just lighting it on fire right now. I mean, he's not getting top 10s, but he finished 11th the last week at Bristol. He had a top 20 finish at Darlington. In my opinion, the 2 of the most difficult tracks these guys come to. $6,500, starting 19th. He was 18th in single lap, 9th in 10-lap consecutive average. He finished 20th at Kansas. Yes, I mean, he's got 3 straight top 20s. Starting 19th at 6,500. I'm at least willing to roll the dice here with Carson. I honestly, statistically, he's probably better than the other three guys that are on this page. So we're starting to enter into, okay, I'm interested in starting to take drivers again. And I don't love the Carson Hocevar play by any means, so don't get me wrong. And I don't love this Michael McDowell play, other than he was first in single lap, and he actually runs, I mean, for Michael McDowell standards, not bad at Texas. Even though it says 36.7 average finish. And that might actually be true. He's only got 7 top 20s, no top 10s. So starting 17th, I mean, that's only at 5 to 10% ownership. It's not like I went hog wild, went 20-25% ownership with Michael McDowell. But it was intriguing. This kind of concerns me the same as there's somebody on the other page who had 1 single lap speed. Eric Almirola. That I was just like, where did that come from? Because your qualifying didn't turn out that. Your average finishes don't turn out like that. Now, Michael McDowell did finish 11th in this race last year. Okay, pretty good. He's been running much better. He had a great run last week at Bristol. He had a decent run at Darlington. Not have a very good race at Charlotte or Kansas. But he's not in the playoffs. So I don't have a whole lot of ownership in Michael McDowell. Don't love the play. Chase Briscoe, though, $6,200. Finally, we're starting to get somewhere that I go, okay, you didn't qualify that great. Your practices were, you were slowest in 10-lap consecutive average, but only half the field did 10-lap consecutive average. So what are we really comparing to here? 28th in single lap, not great. Qualified 31st. Okay, we've got some place differential. Finished 5th in this race last year. Now, SHR and Chase Briscoe, two completely different, might as well two completely different organizations at this point, because they don't seem to be the same team at all. But at least he has shown that he can finish well at Texas. 17.4 average finish at the 5 tracks that we're comparing to. 4 top 20s. Okay, 3 of those were here at Texas. 12.7 average finish. At least there's some signs of they know what they're doing here at Texas. And he's starting 31st, and he's on the cheaper side. He's got some value here. So because of the 31st starting spot, I'm willing to roll the dice and take a chance. Ryan Preece, I'm not willing to jump off yet. $6,000, 24th in single lap, 14th in 10-lap consecutive average. So not great, but about the same as Chase Briscoe. Okay, they're both coming out of SHR. But Ryan Preece has only got 2 top 20s, where Chase Briscoe's got 4 top 20s. 22.5 average finish compared to Chase Briscoe's 17.4. Ryan Preece did not race this race last year in this car. A 29.2 average finish out of 6 total starts here at Texas. Yeah. Nope. Even though there's place differential, I think Ryan Preece finishes where he starts. But I think Chase Briscoe could potentially hunt for a top 20. Now, do I think Chase Briscoe is going to go out and get a top 10? Unlikely. Possible. Sure. So with Ryan Preece, it's possible, but very unlikely. So I've got a more interest in Chase Briscoe than I have Ryan Preece. 25-5. So Justin Haley. I mean, another one that I'm like, okay, at least we've got some stats that kind of are leaning in the right direction. Starting 28th, we've got place differential. 19th in single lap. 7th in 10-lap consecutive average. Okay, you've got the last 2 guys beat. You got a 16.8 average finish in the 5 tracks that we're comparing to. Okay, you got him beat there. He finished 3rd in this race last year, so he knows how to run well at Texas. Now, his other race was pretty lousy because he's got a 20th place average finish at Texas, and he's only started there twice. Once where he got a 3rd. So that kind of tells you he had to finish, 36 with his other one. But at least there's some signs of, hey, I think I can finish better than where I'm starting. And I don't need a lot for $5,900. I need hunt for that top 20. Finish 17th. It's 11 spots. It's 11 points. Well, all you need to be in the top 15 in points is 33. Well, you're over halfway there. And once you figure in, he'll get a couple of fast laps, and finishing 17th will get you get real close to being in the top at least 15 in points. And because you're 5,900, that may be the puzzle piece that fits into the rest of the puzzle. Kind of along with Austin Cindric. And trust me, Austin Cindric, out of all of the Ford guys, is probably right there with Ryan Preece at being lousy. 5,800. And I know Austin Cindric, not a lousy driver. He's got a 20.8 average finish for the 5 races. Finished 15th in this race last year. 3 total starts at Texas. 1 top 5, 1 top 10, 2 top 20s, a 14th place average finish. At least there's some semblances, something happening, but damn, Penske's slow. And Austin Cindric's been about awful. Can he just keep his nose clean, stay no more than a lap down, and get a 18th place finish? That's all I need from Austin Cindric. For $5,800, that's all I need from him and Justin Haley. Because this is where I found that this is where I think the money starts to come in, and it starts to play, because you can play a Justin Haley and Austin Cindric and Todd Gillen, and you can play almost the top 3 guys. You could play a William Byron, Denny Hamlin. I think you can play all three of those. Either way, it gets real close. You could play a combination of some of those types of things. Corey LaJoie, another one. Finished 14th in this race last year. 18.6 average finish. He's not lighting the world on fire, but for Corey LaJoie standards, he kind of is. Now, he's only got 3 top 20s at all of his starts at Texas. Starting 27th, though, at $5,700. And once again, I need Justin Haley, Austin Cindric, and Corey LaJoie to finish 15th, 16th, and 17th. And if that happens, I'll probably end up having a really, really good day. And may potentially get the optimal lineup. One of these 3 guys is probably going to be in the optimal lineup, along with maybe some of these guys. Harrison Burton finished 18th in this race last year. Now, we had a lot of attrition last year. I understand it. And Harrison Burton just happened to not be part of it. But starting 30th, now the rest of the body of work sucks. 24.3 average finish, where he had an 18th place finish at this race last year. I don't know what was wrong, because he only did 15 laps of practice and was 36th. So something happened, and I just happened to miss it during practice today. But for 5,600, there's place differential here. And Harrison Burton needs to end up having a couple good runs here towards the end, or his seat's going to be too damn hot for next year. Zane Smith, and I did not fix this car. He's driving a pink car, which is fine. Don't mind him driving a pink car. Actually, you can find him real easy on the track. $5,400, starting 33rd. And our body of work here is not big enough to really know anything. He was 34th in single lap, 16th in 10 lap consecutive average. The last time he raced this car was at Charlotte for the Coke 600. And he finished 10th. And he's got a contract to run next year in the 78 car, which will be owned by Spire. Good on Zane. He's flying on top of the world right now. I'm willing to, at $5,400, I'm willing to take the 33rd starting spot with the potential that Zane Smith is like, I need to learn this car. I need to get better at these tracks. I'm just going to go out and run laps. I'm not going to worry about if I'm going to try to stay on the lead lap. I just want to have a good run. I'm not going to go try to win. I don't have to worry about points because he's not in the points race. It's just go out and run. The 38 car's not in the points race. Let's just go out and learn and have a good, solid run. That ends up equating to probably a top 20 for Zane. At $5,400, starting 33rd, that's all I need. Like I said, this is why there's nothing in the middle that I really liked. They're either starting too far up. Most of they're all starting too far up, and they're just not good. Not good enough to hold on to their top spots. Todd Gillen. Now, there's the pink car. Todd is actually driving the 51 or 15 this weekend. I think it's JJ Elliott's in the 15, so I would put Todd Gillen in the 51. So Todd is not in the 38 this week because Zane paid for the ride. Whatever it is. 36. He just misses qualifying. Now, he wasn't fast to begin with in practice either. He was 29th. But he started shotgun in the field. Unless he pulls a Sam Mayer and doesn't complete a lap today, he'll finish better than BJ McLeod. So, yeah, I think Todd Gillen ends up having a much better finish than 36. Not much. All I need him to do is finish 25th at 5,200. Because it affords me the ability to run 3 of the higher end priced guys that are going to run up front, stay up front, have a ton of not place differential, but have a great points finish and a lot of dominator points. So I don't mind playing the Todd Gillen play. I think it's one of the safer plays. He's a smart driver. He's going to take care of his equipment and beat around at the end. And if that's the case, he's going to finish 22nd. Well, if he finishes 22nd, that's close to putting him into the top 15 in points. And that's what we're hunting for. You're just trying to find all the guys to fit the top 15 in points and just start mixing and matching them where they fit best. JJ Yaley, $5,000, starting 35th, next to last. So BG McLeod's not even starting last this week. JJ Yaley can move up and around. Oh, so JJ is in the 15. 34th in single lap, not good. But he's got a 27.7 average finish. Okay, not great. 30.6 average finish. But if he and Todd Gillen could follow each other around all race, not wreck each other, just let the attrition come to them, they could both finish 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th. And because you're only going to spend $10,200, you definitely can afford to put the top 3 guys into your lineups and let them just run all the laps and get all the dominator points and let these guys just come clean up at the end. Now, beyond this, there's not much here. Ty Dillon starting 26th. If Ty were starting 35th, I would be interested. I have no interest with Ty Dillon starting 26th, though, because I don't think he finishes much better than there, especially when your fastest lap was 31st. Now, he finished 16th in this race last year. We had a lot of attrition last year. That kind of skews things a little bit. But Ty Dillon has Ty Dillon's looking for a ride. The problem is there are no rides for next year. They are almost all taken up at this point. I mean, right now he's still supposedly in the 77, but supposedly Carson Hocevar is moving into that spot. So I think Ty Dillon's on the out. So Ty Dillon needs to find himself a good Xfinity ride with his granddad. BJ McLeod left in line here, $4,800, starting 34th. He was 34th in single lap. Finished 26th in the race last year because of just attrition. 27.3 average finish over the 5 races. Yeah, there's nothing there. Even at $4,800, just not interested. That and BJ already sold that team, so he doesn't have to worry about where he finishes. He just doesn't want to tear up any more cars. So I think BJ McLeod may just bail out towards the end of this thing. Yeah, so Dominator-esque type points are guys that I have the most ownership in. Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, Tyler Reddick, William Byron. Those are my 4 favorites, along with Ryan Blaney to potentially win. Place differential guys, I mean, Martin Truex Jr. coming from 16th. I mean, pretty much any of those Dominator guys could end up being kind of a place differential, especially William Byron starting 18th. But Martin Truex Jr., Ryan Blaney, Chase Elliott, Kevin Harvick, Joey Logano, I mean, those are all big names that are starting pretty much worse than 20th, except for Truex starting 16th. The guys that are starting up front, or at least in the top 10 that I have some interest in, Brad Kay, Chris Buescher, Christopher Bell. Beyond those 3, don't love anybody on the list except for maybe Kyle Busch or maybe Ross Chastain. Those are really kind of eerie maybes. Value-wise, I mean, Carson Hocevar, I mean, body of work is not big at this point, but it's still pretty consistent. He's going to be there at the end and have a top 20. Don't love the Eric Almirola play. I don't like the Ricky Stenhouse Jr. play. Now, Zane Smith, Chase Briscoe, coming from 30 in the 30s, I'm okay with them. Corey LaJoie coming from 27th, I'm good with that. I mean, Justin Haley, Todd Gillen, okay, maybe. Austin Cedric, maybe. Harrison Burton, maybe. Mix and match in places. Don't like the Ty Dillon play, starting too far up. Ryan Preece starting too far up. JJ Yaley, just... BJ McLeod, I'm not sure BJ finishes this race now that he sold the charter. So those are kind of where I'm looking at the plays. Let's look at some optimal lineups from the previous races. Last year, I mean, look at all his finishing spots. Tyler Reddick, number 1. Justin Haley, 3. Eric Jones, 6. Ryan Blaney, 4. 5 is Chase Briscoe. 7, William Byron. So all really good top 8, top 7 finishes. 3 of them were place differentials. Actually, 4 Ryan Blaney would be considered a place differential since I look at who moves 10 spots or more. So yeah, I mean, it's all finishing position. No dominators. Dominators when I say fast laps led and laps led. But a lot of these guys led lots of laps. They just didn't lead 30% of those to really consider what I consider to be a dominator. And it was 334 laps last year. So that kind of gives you a little bit of an idea. You're looking for guys that are going to finish really well. Some of that's going to come from the front. Some of it's going to be from attrition and come from the rear. Just finding who's going to be the right ones, it's a coin flip. And that's why Paul was saying it's tough to figure out this lineup. There's some definite potentials. And there's also going to be one of these guys that's starting kind of up front. I mean, like a Ty Gibbs. Like, I'm going to be watching the race going, well, darn. I should have taken a lot more of that guy. Because he's out there just running. Oh my God. We've had almost 5 inches of rain in the last 24 hours. Woo-wee. I'm not gonna be able to walk in my yard for a week. Sorry. Just happened to look, but the news was on, and it showed that I've had 5 inches of rain in my neighborhood. Whereas compared to the 2021 year, it was also Kyle Larson's, like, I'm just going to kick the living crap out of everybody year. Led 256 of 334 laps. That's dominating. 104 fast laps. He had 155 Draftkings points. Redunculous. The next closest guy is 91.4, finishing in second, with place differential and laps led. Yeah, Kyle Larson was just insane 2021. But as you can see, David Starr, starting 38th, all he finished was 23rd. Got 34 Draftkings points. And that's what I'm kind of hoping to find with a Harrison Burton or a Todd Gillen or a Zane Smith. I need that so I can run a Kevin Harvick, William Byron, Kyle Larson kind of lineup. So that's kind of where I am. That's kind of my thought process, and that's how I'm kind of building my lineups. Is I'm real heavy on the top end and pretty heavy on the low end. Very, very little in the middle. It shouldn't say Bristol. It should say these are the other two 400 lap cookie cutter tracks. And it's a combination of a little bit of everything. I mean, you got 2 high end guys, 3 middle of the road priced guys, and 1 cheap guy. I mean, even the cheap guy, Justin Haley, goes from 30th to 21st and gets 30 points. Now, 30 points isn't much, but it put him in the optimal lineup because he's $5,800. It afforded you to be able to run the guys up there. I mean, Ty Gibbs coming from 36th to 4th, he definitely helped on the place differential side. But I could probably also tell you that probably he was 50% owned. So it's kind of one of those, if you don't have him, you're screwed. And if you do have him, and he doesn't do well, you're screwed along with everybody else being screwed. So, then next in line here, we've got the Vegas race from earlier in the spring. William Byron domination. Started second, finished first, led 176 laps, 59 fast laps. So let's throughout the rest of the field. I mean, Justin Haley, again, started 27th, finished 8th. Justin Haley seems to keep popping up on these. That's why I like the Justin Haley play today. Could be complete left. He could literally make it 3 laps, do what Sam Mayer did, hit the wall, and be done. I'm willing to take the shot on it, though. I mean, because he keeps popping up everywhere we look, along with Kyle Larson. You know, we look up here, it's Justin Haley. Justin Haley's in 3 of the 4 optimal lineups that I picked. So, all right, that's it. I'm an hour and 23 minutes into this. If you got any questions, thoughts, or concerns, make sure you hit me up in the chat. I will keep an eye on it the rest of tonight and tomorrow. And I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you may or may not have. And if you think I'm absolutely crazy and insane, let me know that too. I'm all good. Just hit the like button. I appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button if you want to hear me rant, rave, and talk about my weird thoughts and premises on why I take people in Draftkings. But it's worked out pretty well for me. I've won a decent amount of money. I've also lost some too. So sometimes my craziness doesn't quite work out. But either way, yeah, it's late here on the East Coast, and it's been raining all day, so you know how those goes. They just make you lazy and want to sleep. So I'm going to go get some rest, watch some football tomorrow, and watch a NASCAR race in the afternoon. Good luck, everyone. Win the bag if you do. If you happen to hit the big one, make sure you let me know. Would love to hear. I love hearing about other people's success as much as my own success, because that's great. Kind of the great thing about DraftKings and betting is typically you're just, I mean, DraftKings, you are kind of taking everybody else's money. But when you're betting, you're taking the house money. So either way, somebody's got to win it. If it's not me, hopefully it's somebody that's listening to me right now. Other than that, you guys have a great weekend. Maybe I hopefully don't need a boat to leave my house tomorrow. But if not, I've got plenty of things to watch and do. Have a great weekend. We will see y'all next week for the, I think it's the Roval preview before Talladega, or is it Talladega then the Roval? Either one. They're both on Sunday. We'll do this again next Saturday night. Have a great one. Talk to you later. Bye.
Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W's, so got to be around at the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Let's go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checkered. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby!
Hell yeah!
Proud of you there, Matt. Good job, pal. Thanks, man. Good job all day. Great work, my man. Great work. Keep putting yourself in position. We'll win our share, right? We got one back today, brother. Good job.
Great job, guys.
Excellent work, my man. Excellent work. Thank you.
Man, that's awesome. Set out with a goal, we got it here, bud. Thank you very much.
Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the fastest car here, bud.
Probably killed our deal there. Just feel like I gave one away. Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job.
Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend.
What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.